Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's Honda Classic. Gonna break down the bottom end of the Draftkings pricing, players $8,000 and below that you can use to get some much needed salary savings and of course some large field GPP leverage when it comes to their ownership. But towards the bottom end of this week, it's gonna be a lot harder to identify plays than what we had for the elevated events. We had players like Shane Lowry that were just $7,400 last week and are now in the $10,000 range. So going to be a little bit of a more dumpster diving kind of a technique this week. You're going to have to be willing to get your hands dirty and play guys that really are either coming in without form or maybe ones that you're really taking a shot on the dark on. So it's one of those volatile, high upside kind of weeks where you want to target players that maybe don't have the best floor, but guys that legitimately have the upside, right? Guys that'll go for it when they tend to have their best stuff are finishing in a top 5, top 10 in this kind of field, as opposed to just a cut maker that's finishing top 25. So these are certainly going to be some high risk, high upside plays, again, meant for some of the larger field contests across the industry. So with a lot to talk about, a lot to get into, let's go ahead and get this thing rocking. All right, first up this week, we've got Ben Griffin, who I went to a few weeks ago, ended up really having a disappointing week, and he was relatively chalky that week too, so I think people might be a little bit more hesitant to play this young up-and-coming stud. But out of the new rookie class, he's at least in the top 3 when it comes to the rookies, if not number 2 behind Taylor Montgomery. He's been extremely consistent, again, outside of that missed cut that so many people are going to hold against him. So let's go up here, $7,900 Ben Griffin. So missed cut the last time out, but before that was a consistency machine. I mean, whether it was at a course like the RSM Classic, where I saw him in person, played excellent there, just top 30 after top 30, a few top 15, top 20 finishes towards the beginning of the season is really where I started to get excited about him. But when he got into that run of consistency, it showed me that he's not only a player that we're going to see pop in some of these tournaments, but also somebody that's going to have a relatively high floor. So I know at the beginning I was talking about this week being a little bit more risky, which is going to bring that missed cut equity into pretty much the entire field. What I like about Ben Griffin is that he's done it at a few similar courses, most notably that RSM Classic. The Seaside course is relatively tight off the tee. It's a course where you're going to have a lot of forced layups and you're hitting irons from the same distance as everyone else. Well, Ben Griffin, to this point, one of the better par 3 players that we've had during this entire tour season. And on top of that, one of the better iron players, if not the best iron player out of this entire rookie class. So it's $7,900. I think it's a relatively good course fit, and I think he's a 9K golfer. That's the other part of this equation, is I think he's just as good as the Svensons, JT Postons of the world. Taylor Pendrith, I think, has a little bit more upside, but as of right now, he's on the same level as like a Dietrich as well, right? He's been that consistent cut maker, has a few of those top 15 finishes to boot, and I think, at least from the skill set perspective, it's hard to say on some of the rookies, right? We're still kind of learning their game. I think it's a good course fit for Ben Griffin based on what I saw there at the RSM Classic. And take a look at the shots gained. We'll get an idea for how he's been striping it of late. So despite the missed cut, you can see he's still gaining pretty much across the board. Just the slightest loser around the green, gaining close to 1/3 of a stroke per round off the tee, just over 4/10 of a stroke per round with the approach play. The putter has always been solid for Ben Griffin, just a consistent, well-rounded player, right? He doesn't bomb it like 320 yards, but he hits a bunch of fairways. The irons, he's not going to be like a Morikawa hitting a dart to pretty much every single pin, no matter where he's at, but slow and steady, just hitting a bunch of greens regulation. And that putter is, again, just been slow and steady, right? He's not going to be top 5, top 10 on any one category on tour, but he's also not going to kill himself in any one category, which is kind of the game that you need for PGA National, right? The bombers aren't just going to tear this course apart. You have to have solid iron play, and you see a lot of strong putters have success. So he's able to tune into all 3 of those skill sets. And again, though he's not elite in any one category, you don't have to be elite at any of those categories to have success around this track. So I like the upside. Of course, has not played here before because he is a PGA Tour rookie, so has no course experience. But around the Honda Classic, I don't think you have to have that experience. It's not really a course where you have those massive breaks like an Augusta National to worry about, Memorial Park, or even what we saw just a few weeks ago there with all those sloping greens, even the Farmers, right? Just massive slopes in the middle of some of these greens. You don't really get that here at the Honda. So that learning curve might not be there, might not be nearly as steep for some of these rookies. So yeah, I love Ben Griffin. Just hopefully the ownership stays low. Have to say this, no ownership at this point. I'll be running that this evening. Gonna hope that he's in the maybe 10 to 15% range. If he's 15% owned, that'd kind of suck, right? That'd be certainly towards the chalkier side of things, but I think it'd be well warranted. I'd still be willing to get leverage there. In general, this is a week where you want to avoid chalk like the plague. It's such a volatile week. Again, everyone has that missed cut equity because of how much water's out there, how many penalty strokes are to be had. So if someone's going to be like 20% owned, they're almost an auto fade. But if we get even a remotely reasonable ownership number here, I'm going to be all over Griffin. Just one of the better plays on the slate, even regardless of price. Next up, we've got Benny Ann down here at $7,600. And the recent form's been okay. It was better, I'd say, a few weeks ago. So, this is over the last 24 rounds. The last few events haven't been as kind to Benny Ann. You can see now he's a loser off the tee. The approach play isn't as stout as it was before. But we kind of know who Benny Ann is. He's been around forever. It's not like he's a PGA Tour rookie, right? He just earned his card back this year. We've seen this guy a ton, and especially at this course. So if you take a look at his course history, didn't play here last year, did not qualify, but has 2 top 5 finishes over the last 5 years, 3 of 4 made cuts. And he missed the cut there 2 years ago, but that's when he was really playing poorly. He was playing just based on, past season success where he's made it through the playoffs and that sort of thing, and ended up losing his tour card. So this missed cut, I wouldn't look into too much. He's kind of playing like the old Benny Ann now, where he's consistent across the board, kind of like a Ben Griffin who we were going through. He's not the best putter, so he's not going to go out there, gain close to half a stroke per round with the flat stick like Ben Griffin's capable of, but he's a better tee to green player. From tee to green, Benny Ann, when he's on his game, is an elite tee to green player. And of late, you can see why the shots gained metrics are starting to come back down to earth. He's 62nd, so made the cut, but bled a ton of strokes over the weekend, has been making cuts, but not really any of that top end upside, right? And even during the fall swing, when he was mixing in a few missed cuts, the shots gained look a little bit better because when he was making cuts, he wasn't finishing in 37th and 62nd. He was posting top 25 finishes during the fall, which, again, very reminiscent of the old Benny Ann. He's not always the highest upside player, but if you're ever going to take a Benny Ann, you don't take him at a birdie fest, right, where you're going to see 15, 20 under par winning. You take him at a difficult course because he has a really hard time making birdies, right? He's one of the more poor putters on the PGA Tour, but what we know him for is the tee to green play, right? Being relatively stout off the tee. He's not the best off the tee green player, but he's really good on approach, and he's one of the best players in the world when it comes to around the green play. So at a track like PGA National, where the winning score might be something like 5 to maybe 12 under par, I'd say that would be the sweet spot in terms of your winning score. That's going to play directly into his skill set, and perhaps that's why he's finished top 5 here 2 out of the last 5 years. So I like what we're seeing. The recent form is at least good enough for me to hop on, and if anything, he's probably playing his best right now, as he has pretty much over the last 3-4 years, which I think bodes well for his success at this type of golf course. Next up, I'll just remind you, if you're looking for access to all of my picks here, all of the modeling here for these players, everything that's blacked out, that is going to be on my Patreon page. On there, of course, I post my ownership for GPPs, my player pool, so all of the guys that I'll be using in my 150 lineups will be on this sheet as well. So I get questions about that all the time, about how to get access to everything, not just the 4 players that we touch on here with the stream, and that's how you do so. Also gets you access to all of my prop analysis, whether it's for Prize Picks or Underdog, and all of the showdown content I'm doing throughout the weekend. I do the same kind of spreadsheet for rounds 2 through 4. Don't do it for round 1 showdown. You can use the regular sheet for round 1 showdown, right? It's extremely similar. The projected points will be different, but all of the research holds. With the rounds 2 through 4, I not only put up projected points, but also projected ownership. At this point, I'm the only person in the industry that at least every single slate for showdown is putting out ownership numbers. So check it out. If you're a DFS hardcore fan, you definitely will get your money's worth out of it. And if you're just playing props over there too, you'll like it. And if you're doing both, then you definitely need to hop on. But shameless plug aside, let's hop into these last 2 value plays where S.H. Kim at $7,400 is being talked up by a few people, which I was hoping no one would talk about him. Kind of like a Benny Ann, you get S.H. Kim at a difficult course, he tends to find success. In fact, of his 3 international victories, 2 of them came at a winning score of 11 under par or worse. So one of them was 5 under par, one of them was 11 under par, and we haven't seen him win on stateside yet, right? He's just a rookie, right? We haven't seen him play that much. But when you look at the world rankings, look at Data Golf, all of the analytics they use on S.H. Kim, they have him as a top 60 player on tour. So I think you're looking at somebody that could be in that 8K range, could even be like $8,500 towards the top end of that range, like a Ben Griffin. And you're getting him cheap in a weak field, right? So $7,400, he could easily be $1,000 more expensive. The recent form's been okay too. I mean, look at this: made cut, made cut, made cut. One missed cut mixing, but then a top 15 finish. Over the fall swing, the guy was extremely consistent too, and kind of like Ben Griffin, every once in a while was popping for a top 10. So these two price tags are just kind of huge question marks to me. Another player that doesn't have event history here, again, didn't qualify for this event, is a PGA Tour rookie this year, so that's not really surprising. But kind of like a Ben Griffin, the shots gained metrics back it up too. Everything but approach looks good, right? Just a slight loser around the green. These rookies, they really got to work on their short game, it looks like. But gaining a bunch with the putter, gaining a bunch off the tee. And the approach play, like any player in this field, again, it's a weak field event. Every player here is going to have some sort of problem going on. The approach play is probably the one problem that I would like to see the least, right? We want guys that are striping it well typically, but again, given the track record around these difficult courses where he's actually had those top end upside finishes or at these difficult courses, everything else is at least good enough for me to get there. And again, he's gaining 0.76 strokes per round, right? So he's still gaining close to a stroke per round to the field despite losing on approach. And during the fall swing, he was a little bit inconsistent with the irons, but he would mix in weeks of 2-3 shots lost on approach with 2-3 shots gained the next week on approach. So you just kind of got to time it up right with SH Kim. So kind of like Ben Griffin, I'm worried about ownership with SH because I think he's so mispriced, and I think a lot of other people will recognize that, might try to get to him there. So he might be in that 10 to 15% range as well, which compared to players around him is going to be way higher owned than everybody else. But if we're getting them closer to that 10% mark, or hopefully even less, I'd ideally like to see single-digit ownership on an SH Kim, then fire him up, right? If he's getting closer to like, let's say 13 to 15%, then we're going to have a conversation about that. So just like all of these plays, just like all of the core picks that I go through, make sure you're keeping an eye on ownership to make sure that nothing is getting too out of hand there. And lastly, and it's also worth noting, the Bermuda numbers are pretty good, right? On Bermuda, not so much the case with Benny Ann, but again, the course history dictates otherwise. So I'm willing to overlook that a little bit, but even Ben Griffin, decent on Bermuda. But our last pick here down here is a Bermuda specialist to this point, and he doesn't have a ton of rounds on Bermuda, so I don't know how much we can look into it, but Eric Cole, another player who's just clearly mispriced. This guy has been making cuts like no one's business, and they haven't been super flashy. You can see like top 15, right? Made the cut, 36th, right? One missed cut out of his last 4 starts. Another rookie, so you're not going to get any course history here, which is kind of unfortunate, but he's from South Florida, and the shots gained metrics have been ridiculous. So everything but off the tee, he's one of the best players in the field. I mean, look at this, gaining close to 2/3 of a stroke per round on approach. The short game has been ridiculous, and he's a slight gainer with the putter. But again, on Bermuda, he gains 0.4 strokes per round, so albeit a small sample size, he's even better on the greens that we're going to here. And off the tee is his one bugaboo, right? The one real weakness. Well, around PGA National, there's probably like 5 holes that you have to hit driver on. You could hit 3-wood, driving iron off almost every other tee, so he's not going to lose nearly this many strokes. Now, the one way he would lose those strokes is if he starts to hit water balls, right? He's got to be accurate off the tee, that's for damn sure. But given the rest of the skill set, I mean, he could again be an 8K golfer, and now we're getting him at $6,900. So another player that might be a little bit chalky here, but the reason I point these guys out is I say might be chalky because it's just us hardcore golf fans that'll recognize an Eric Cole, right? It's not going to be those casuals out there that are maybe coming over from NFL, coming over from some of those other sports that are ending right now or getting towards the end of the season like hockey. And we can take advantage, right? So maybe instead of being 10 to 15% owned, like I think they should be, maybe an Eric Cole, some of the other picks here, come in closer to like 7 to 10%, like an SH Kim. So that's what I'm hoping for here. We're going to have to keep an eye on the ownership, but again, another guy who's just consistently been making cuts. He doesn't have as many top-end finishes as a few of the other 7K options we're getting to, but that's why he's in the 6K range, right? So we take a look at the event history. Again, he doesn't have any, but the recent form's just been a cut maker, and that's kind of what we're looking for in the 6K range, right? These guys down here, a top 15 finish is going to end up being in the optimal. And Eric Cole was posting these made cuts. You can see there the top 15 last time out, right? The 36th place finish in much tougher fields, right? So let's see. The 36 was at the Amex. You had guys like Patrick Cantlay there, right? Like John Rahm in the field, some of the best players in the world. This week, our best player is Sungjae Im, right? I believe he was also in that Amex field. It might have been like the 8th or 9th best player. Maybe that 36th is a top 20 this week, or maybe it's even a top 15 finish, just given the different strength of field, which makes this kind of consistent player, again, he should probably at least be in the 8K range. So absolutely love the play, but gonna have to keep an eye on the ownership. All right, fellas, that is all I've got for this week's value plays. Before you hopping out of here, go ahead and comment down below who you've got as your favorite player priced $8,000 and below on DraftKings. And of course, go ahead and smash that like button and make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any of the content in the future. We'll be going live tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time, local time for the golf tournament. Again, I live right down the road, and I'll be there at the Pro-Am for most of tomorrow. Gonna go scout the course, watch the range, figure out if there's any injuries going on, any players that look to maybe be struggling or absolutely striping it out there, and most importantly, take a look at the golf course, right? I'm going to see how firm it is, whether the fairways are running out, all of those important things to try and adjust our modeling last second and get the largest edge we can. So this live stream, even more so than most, you'll want to be there for, so make sure you don't miss it. Again, tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you comment down below, right, your favorite value play for, again, $8,000 and below. Like the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Best of luck with all of your lineups this week. Again, hopefully we can have Sahith Theegala, right, another one of those Lee Hodges from last week that were absolute banger picks for us to go out there and try to get towards the top of those GPPs. I had pretty much everything, right? The Sahith, I had a Lee Hodges lineup where I had both of them there. Also guys like, you know, what is it, Cantlay, I had Patrick, Will Zalatoris in a bunch of lineups. So I had that core 4 or 5 players together. I just had to have John Rahm. So let's hit on these value plays again. Let's hit on those core plays we went over the other day, and let's have ourselves a week. Best of luck, like I said, and I will catch you guys for the stream tomorrow.